morning, officially. You're all here. Now, if this is your first time here, can you please raise your hand? Because our ushers would love to bring you a gift about our church. So you get some information. Got them down here as well. Now, you're all here and you're full of hope, right? You're full of hope and trust. In our last series, we learned all about hope. How to see it when everyone around us is telling us that things are hopeless. And we've spent the last 4 weeks really digging into the whole entire meaning behind biblical verses such as this from Psalm 37. Trust in God and do good. Dwell in the land and seek after faithfulness. Trust in the Lord and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him and he shall bring it to pass. And you may not have realized it, but this idea actually appears over and over and over in the Bible, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, from the Gospels to the old books that are historical, somewhat war-filled. Okay, maybe not somewhat, a lot war-filled. It appears, depending on how you interpret the verses, between 190 and 240 times. This idea that there is a love behind it all, guiding everything that you can trust. And we're almost completely there, almost completely in that trust. We've looked so deeply that we are standing right on the threshold that separates so-so and unshakable trust. We've done some really cool journaling through a series of prompts and affirmations to really anchor it all in. Anybody been working on those? Couple. Yep, they're a big deal because they've helped me see me, and I put them together. So that's strange. When I print them out and I hand them out, and then I revisit them asking myself the question, I'm digging up stuff I didn't know was there. So that's fascinating for me. David, would you please hand out page 5? This is our final journaling page in the series. And so homework is over for now. So far in this series, we have learned to listen to that inner voice, that divine whisper that perhaps we've been in the practice of ignoring up until a few weeks ago. And we proved to ourselves that our inner guide is worth listening to because it's always steering us toward good. We learn to trust others too. We realize that people will always meet our expectations, and so will our experiences. If we expect people to be rude or arrogant or aggressive or manipulative or whatever negative attribute we color the people of the world in, we will certainly see evidence to support that. But conversely, we learned that when we expect people to be kind, supportive, and friendly, and wonderful, we see more and more evidence to support that. And I promise you that there is way, way, way more evidence of amazingness than there could ever be for lack. And we learn to trust the process, to trust that no matter how many pieces there are in that IKEA box holding all the parts to all the different events of our lives, by the time we've gotten through all of the pieces, we know that we'll have a wonderful piece of furniture or art to show for it, right? Metaphorically speaking. And remember my friend Carol and that pottery class? I said potty class. She did not go to a potty class. She is a grown woman. She went to a pottery class. I must articulate. And do you remember she talked about her lumpy mushroom that she was trying to turn into a vase and it kept falling apart? And then her teacher said, "Let the clay guide you." And she ended up creating, much to her amazement, the first bouncing vase. that didn't break. And she ended up being the talk of the neighborhood, right? Again, she let the clay guide her instead of the other way around. She stopped trying to plan and control, and she trusted the process. And I want to address something here. I said it during the talk, and I understand that some folks missed it. I was not telling you to ignore your responsibilities. I wasn't saying stop going to work or stop adulting. In fact, I said, and I quote, trusting the process means, yes, still showing up fully for what's in front of us, our work, our families, our communities, but also staying open to the unexpected ways that the universe wants to bless us. It's letting go of the need to control every detail while still being responsible and engaged in our lives. So hopefully that clears up some of the confusion in talk 3. Okay, and then last week, we learned to trust the divine. And it was a big talk with a bigger healing and empowering exercise, because recent events have really created a platform for fear and anger and hopelessness and all kinds of other great big feelings. And it made it even harder to see that spirit is at work through it all. And in seeking to find that, we realize that when we're looking for evidence of love in the chaos and we're coming up short, it's up to us to be the evidence of love in the chaos. Our hands are God's hands. Ours are God's eyes and feet. It is through our hearts that divine love is expressed. And as we express that love, we begin to see more and more and more evidence to support the divine hand guiding it all. And today, we begin to live from trust. But what does that look like? Living from trust is not just about having faith when skies are blue and the path is well lit. It's about choosing faith, especially when the way is unclear, when the wind picks up, when the storm clouds gather. It's about walking forward anyway, saying, even now I trust. Even this, no matter how it appears, is love in disguise. Living from trust means that you stop needing proof before you act in alignment with your soul. It means you apply for the job even if you're not fully qualified. You speak up in truth and love even if your voice shakes. You open your heart again even if it's been bruised. You take the leap because you know who's holding the net. It means that the voice of doubt no longer gets to be the loudest voice in the room. It means you've anchored yourself in the truth of God within, not in the ever-changing opinions and events of the world around you. And let's be real. Living from trust is not always peaceful at first. It really can feel like standing on the edge of a cliff with nothing beneath your feet and somehow still choosing to take the step. But those who live from trust, they do take that step, and the path does appear under their feet moment by moment, miracle by miracle. Let me ask you something. This is bugging me here, so give me a sec. If you really believed, if you truly believed in your heart of hearts that the universe was conspiring in your favor, how would your posture change? Would your shoulders drop with that weight and worry removed? Would your breath deepen? Would you unclench your body, your heart, your mind? Imagine for a moment that trust is a cloak wrapped around your shoulders. It's warm, it's protective, maybe even luminous. You walk through your life with it draped around you, and the world doesn't see it, but they feel it in the very presence of you. Every breath that you take carries that vibration of all is well and becoming better. That is the energy of a life lived from trust. And when we can do that all the time, we are the carriers of that cloak for everyone we encounter in life. We allow them to relax into truth by introducing them to divine love through our every glance, every touch, every word and deed, and that changes the world. Living from that trust means knowing the miracle will be made, no matter how long it takes. And in 1929, Jean Giono published the story of Elzéar de Bouffier, a quiet shepherd who lived alone in the hills of Provence, France. And it perfectly illustrates what I am talking about. The land he lived on had once been rich and green, but over the years, it had become a barren wasteland. Deserted villages, dried up springs, cracked earth, and the silence of despair. But he did not see hopelessness, he saw potential. He didn't wait for a government to intervene. He didn't start a petition or a program. Instead, he did something utterly ordinary and yet wholly extraordinary. Every single day he planted trees. Alone with his dog and his sheep, he would walk the hills and plant acorns, hundreds a day. No one asked him to, no one saw him doing it. He just trusted that what he planted would grow. Even if he would never live to see the forest that it became. Years passed and the trees began to rise. Where there was once dust, shade returned. Water began to flow again from dried up springs. Birds, deer, and life came flooding back to the valley. Entire villages that had once been abandoned were rebuilt because now there was beauty, now there was oxygen, now there was hope that everyone could see. It happened because of one man's unshakable trust. Trust in the process, trust in the unseen, trust that his quiet, faithful action mattered. He wasn't loud, he wasn't famous, he just trusted in the power of becoming the solution. By the end of his life, he had single-handedly reforested an entire region of France. Acre upon acre, millions of lives have been changed because of it in the 96 years since he began his legacy of trust. All because he trusted that something sacred happens when we plant with faith. But while this is a beautiful story, which really does drive home the overarching point of what I'm trying to say today, you may be asking how planting seeds is going to help with what's going on in our communities, in our country, in the world right now. Last week, perhaps it all felt more shocking and emotions and fear were more raw, but it's no less present this week. How is living from trust going to heal broken families and calm frightened people? Are we supposed to just plant seeds and wait for peace to grow? Of course not. But also yes. Yes, of course. In a manner of speaking, let me explain what I mean in the form of another story. And you can look this one up. The one in 1929, 29. The one in 1929, it's debatable about how true it is. I will confess to that. But this one, this is absolutely true. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Liberia suffered through two devastating civil wars. They were marked by brutal violence, too horrific for words, and near total breakdown of society. It was a land where if you'd lived there, maybe peace seemed impossible. But few could have known that beneath the chaos, there quietly lay fertile soil for what would come next. Lema Gbawi, a single mother, traumatized by societal collapse and personal wounds, she refused to surrender to hopelessness. One day she decided to trust a deeper calling. She gathered women from Christian and Muslim communities. Lema led pray-ins, silent, steadfast vigils focused not on hate or retribution, but on love, healing, and trust. And these vigils became movements of prayer and solidarity, fueling grassroots organizing with a power that no weapon could suppress. They formed the Liberia Mass Action for Peace movement, bringing thousands into the streets weaponless, robed in prayer, singing and demanding ceasefires and peace with one unifying cry which said, "We trust the power of love over violence." They were laughed at by soldiers. They were dismissed by generals. They were ignored by politicians, but they persisted without aggression, harnessing an unwavering belief that divine love was more powerful than fear. And their trust wasn't naive. It was activated faith. They trusted that prayer would work. They trusted that unity would matter. And ultimately, they forced warring leaders back to peace talks in Ghana. They created a historic cessation of hostilities and built a path to Liberia's first democratic elections. From their trust-driven resistance rose not only peace, but a national rebirth. In 2011, for this embodiment of fearless faith and trust, Lema was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. She helped Liberia move from ruin to rebirth, transforming despair into dance, violence into voices raised in prayer. Lema Gbawi didn't carry weapons. She carried trust. She trusted that prayer could speak louder than bombs. She trusted that love could cut through decades of war. And she trusted that peace was not just a dream, it was a birthright. She stood quietly with the women she gathered around her and said, "We trust love more than war." And guess what? War stopped. Remember, with just a tiny bit of light, darkness is banished. You are called to that same trust. Not necessarily for Liberia, but for Los Angeles, for Israel, for Palestine, for Sudan, for Ukraine, for Ethiopia, for the Philippines, for India and Pakistan, for war-torn lands around the world, for families hiding and in prayer circles, for people, I need a second, people who are too frightened to walk outside, for communities feeling deserted, and for everything which is happening or will ever happen in our own lives, no matter how great or small. You are called to trust now and in every moment from this day on, not as patriots or protesters with shouts, but as carriers of trust who steadfastly tell the world, we trust that Spirit is working through this, no matter how it looks, because love will always be more powerful than fear. Love really, truly is more powerful than any fear, no matter how loud that monster roars. Whether it's one man planting trees in silence and in secret without anyone knowing that it's happening, or one woman bringing together thousands of other women to sing for peace in unison, or one singular person sitting in a beautiful room with glass walls, listening to a lady talk and feeling something divine stirring within. The power is the same. It is the power of living from trust. It is the power of believing in something better before you see it. It is the power of planting whatever you can, physical, metaphysical, spiritual, planting whatever you can wherever you are, with the full knowing that Spirit is already at work beneath the surface. And now it's your time to begin doing just that. I want to invite you into something sacred. We've done the work these last 5 weeks. We've remembered who we are. Y'all have reclaimed your trust in yourself, in others, in the divine, and in this wild and wonderful process of becoming. And today, you become the planter. You become the one who chooses again and again and again to say, even now, even here, I trust, I believe. I'm going to once again call upon my beautiful, beloved musical volunteers. They're going to hand you a lovely piece of seeded paper shaped like a heart or a butterfly and a pencil. On that paper, I invite you to write a word or a statement to represent an area of your life where it's hard to see Spirit. Maybe there's a part of your life where God still appears to be silent. Maybe there's a question mark that you've been carrying, or a patch of land in your spirit that feels like nothing can grow. Or maybe it's something large and in your face. Maybe it's a fear around your family or your friends or your neighbors. Maybe it's anger at injustice. Whatever it is, write it down. Today you plant truth in that place of doubt within you. You write your doubt, your hope, your in-between, write it on this paper. And when you are done, make your way to one of the tables. There's one in the back and one up here. Choose a pot. Pick it up along with the coaster, and that part's important. Choose a pot and then reverently and intentionally place your paper into the pot, cover it with soil, and bring it back to your seat with you. Because this is not just an exercise. It is a spiritual act. Each step, from the writing to the bloom, is a metaphor. In writing your truth, you declare that you trust God is always present. You're planting it. It's a vow of commitment to doing what is necessary to intentionally prove divine love in the world around you. Watering the soil is your statement of belief that flowers will always grow from chaos. Knowing that beauty is inherent in every moment, even when it sometimes appears to be sleeping quite soundly or hiding. And finally, waiting for as long as it takes for that flower to sprout is your commitment to hanging on in every moment, knowing that the miracle will appear, knowing that as long as you continue to water the world with love, roses will always bloom through the thorny rough. It is your declaration that beauty is still becoming. It is your vow that you will not give up on love. It is your moment to say to the world, even when the ground looks empty, I plant, I trust, I wait, I water, I believe. And so we begin. Please stand and plant your beautiful seed when you are ready. If you need help, please raise your hand and I'll run down and help you. Anybody need help? You got it, girl. Any place that you are struggling, see God's situation. Yeah. And now, I'd like you to make a sacred commitment with me. My friend Soria sent me this prayer earlier this week. They wrote it for me as a personal reminder that they see my calling and they join me in support. And I've had it taped to my mirror for the last several days, reflecting on it daily. And I quickly realized that it is our prayer. It is our calling. And so if you are ready to step into your divine commitment, I'd like you to repeat it after me aloud or silently. Sacred, sweet Spirit, I accept the sacred function of being a living conduit. A living conduit for divine love. I no longer shy away from the light that seeks to move through me. Let my words heal. Let my touch bless. Let my being remind others of God. I do not need to be more than I am. I only need to be more fully who I am. Let me walk as love embodied and trust that it is enough. So let it be.